Good evening and welcome everyone to yet another live session with Brigadier Sushil Bhasin. Today we have with us none other than Fahmida Mohammed, and we are going to talk about communicate to influence post COVID. How has communication changed? What are the new methods that we'll all have to adapt to? Are some of the crucial elements that we are going to look at today. Am I visible? I'm so sorry. I guess there was a
Yeah,
lag over there.
no, it's okay. You're there.
Perfect. Thank you. Famida Mahmood is a business management professional, co-founder of The Trainer and a motivational speaker, Toastmaster, corporate trainer in the field of leadership, learning and development. She is also a social women entrepreneur, social women empowerment activist, and a global host and international moderator. We all know Brigadier Sushil Bhasin. He is a time consciousness coach, author, and trainer. And today, as I said, we will be talking about communicate to influence post COVID. Communication post COVID has changed massively. None of us can see each other's facial expressions. We're all wearing a mask to hide our smiles. All of these small changes have led to major differences in the way we communicate and in the way we take each other's message. Brigadier Sushil Bhasin, would you like to elaborate about how these changes have occurred and what are the major differences and impacts of these changes?
Thank you very much, Rajvi. Thank you very much. And thank you to our audience. As I see them coming in, uh, please do put your comments so that we know who all are there. We would like to be keeping this conversation very interactive, and we like your questions and all to be coming in on the comments as we go along. So, I don't know whether our speaker, Famida from Sri Lanka, is. Uh, got logged off because of network, and hopefully she'll be joining us soon. Till then, so I just answer this question. What has happened is, if you all see carefully, COVID has brought about a lot of changes. When COVID happened, the first thing that happened right in the beginning was when people felt, it's something like a fish out of water. I can't talk to my teams. I can't talk to my people. I can't talk to my friends. I can't go out and hang out with them. So there was a little, you suddenly found that there was a suffocation, that I couldn't communicate the way I love to. I remember, because I was using Zoom for the last 4 years. When I say 4 years, 4 years before COVID, I started you doing it in 16, and I found that people were, like, Zoom sikha do. They didn't, people who didn't know Zoom, they didn't know, if you didn't know Skype or you didn't know do video conferencing on any other platform, you suddenly found that you were losing your platform to communicate. Similarly, lot of other things happened. Lot of other things happened where, for example, now the virus, we didn't know anything about it. And the moment the government got to know, the doctors got to know, there was a need to communicate. How did we communicate? How did the government quickly start communicating with masses? How did we get to uh, a way to reach them out on TV, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on SMSs, on ringtones? There was a way that communication started changing. And we'll talk much more about it as we go along. But communication post COVID is still going to be different. Why? Because things are already changing. Whether it is formal communications in the corporate world, whether it is business communication, whether it is family communication, whether it is friends communication, things are already beginning to change. And therefore, my question has been, and that is how I decided on this subject. Am I going to wait and see what happens in the next 6 months to 1 year and then respond accordingly? Or can I start preparing for whatever I think the world will be like? Because we have some trends available, we can see some data, we know how things are happening, and can we start preparing for that day? Can we start preparing for communication at that point of time now, so that we have an edge over others?
It's great to see you back, Famida ma'am. Over to you. Like we were talking about how these minor changes have happened pre and post COVID. Our faces are hidden, our masks are always on. What do you think is the greater impact of these changes, and how do you think is communication different pre and post COVID?
I would rather call it positive. Well, I didn't know you, Rajbi. If COVID never happened, I would have never met Brigadier Shushil, or you for that matter. Never would we have entered into a StreamYard and a Zoom world. In which case, COVID, the new normal, opened borders digitally, allowing us to connect. And one minor thing I have to say is that we restricted to personal connectivity. We always believed that when a person meets a person, a meeting occurs, we actually build a rapport. We build an intellectual bond with the people who we communicate with. The receiver listens to us, we communicate, we try to influence them. The sphere of influence has always been a higher term, whereas today we have entered into screen mode, yet connecting with people. I would rather say that we focus on the message we intend to convey and take off this medium of communication and make it irrelevant, as it has proven itself irrelevant in the current context. I believe that if you are able to communicate, if you know where your communication skills lie, if you know how to talk to a person, then you are in the right spot, irrespective of the medium.
I am so sorry, there was a network lag and I had to cut out. Thank you. I really think that you have given a very good positive lookout to how COVID has changed the communication style and how it's opened borders and gates for each one of us. So, with this change that's come in the way of communicating, in the methods of communication, from an individual's point of view, if I ask, what are the changes and improvisations we would have to make as a normal individual in order to be compatible in this world, in the new normal world of COVID? Famida ma'am, your views?
Yeah, so I would first begin with a statement: communicate to respond, not to react. We always want to place forth our opinions, our judgments. We have always been this highly opinionated community where when one places forth an opinion, we try to prove ourselves superior by overriding their opinions. Now, the first rule of communication is to be an attentive listener. Listen to what the other person has to say because it matters. Communication is a two-way traffic. You listen and then you correspond. When you do that, you're able to connect. I always believe that communication is the first connection that occurs. Be it in any walks of life, Rajvi, we are all leaders in our own ways, in our own unique ways. A mother leads a kid, a father leads the family. You lead your friends. You might be inspiring a lot of people without your own conscious. In which way? When you're able to talk, your words reflect who you are. Language is the ultimate perception of one's personality. So we should be able to understand now the personal connectivity has been kind of temporarily suspended, I would rather say. But we are able to see each other now without masks, with our true face. So now, one doubt that one would come up to is the congruency. Are the words spoken genuine, sincere? I would rather know if I meet this person. So, words, non-verbal cues, they are all in a package. Communication is your ultimate personality. The message that you intend to convey. Are you self convicted of what you're saying? Appears more. Because there was just one person who you were talking to, but right now you're talking to an entire globe without knowing who the audience is. Those days we used to be prepared. We know the profiling of the people who we go, but today we are rather in an uncertain world. VUCA, as Brigadier Sushil and I connected with, VUCA has now changed. The volatility, the ambiguity, the uncertainties, everything has changed. It has become more ambitious. It has become more valiant. Right now, we live in a world where we are able to pass a message with a click of a finger. Today, I connected today with you. Sri Lanka and India has connected over this. And that is only through a click of a button. I did not travel. I did not spend a flight ticket. I did not have to have an invitation. It was myself and Brigadier Shishil communicating to each other and building synergy. So always remember, when you communicate to connect. You communicate to collaborate. And together, that collaboration leads to conquering. That's what my views are, Rajvi.
Very, very good. Very good. I just love the way Dr. Famita has talked, and I think we resonate a lot. I absolutely agree with everything she said. And when we are talking about the VUCA world, you see, the VUCA term came up somewhere in the late 80s, 87, 88. But today, lots of things have changed from that time till now. So I call it the VUCA D3 world. And the three Ds that got added to making this a darker shade or a more complex, more ambiguous thing are digital, diverse, and disruptive. These three Ds have made a lot of more difference to what VUCA was at that point of time. Also, change has always been there, always. But today, the speed of change has become so fast that I tell all students when I talk to people in colleges and all that your number one challenge today is to cope up with the speed of change. If you can cope up with the speed of change, and we've seen this change, it came to us so surprisingly, like nobody in the world had imagined something like Corona will be there. And when it came, people didn't know what struck them. But gradually we have all got used to it. We got now, we understood it, we tackled it, and now we are overpowering it. And this also taught us a lesson that a crisis can come anytime and we'll be better prepared for future crises, even if they are very unknown ones. So therefore, I will come to another thing, and I love the way you talked of active listening. And I really want to add one thing there, and that is when somebody is speaking to you, are you really, really listening? Which means she said this that I don't listen to respond, I listen to absorb. Do I understand why this person is saying what he's saying? I'll take a typical case of, let's see, if I'm a leader in any organization, whether it's in the corporate or in a business, or like she said, even if it is in my family, for example, that as a father I am listening to my children. And if my child comes up with a problem, if my subordinate comes up with a problem, my first thing is not to say that I'll give a solution. I'm not looking for a solution. I'm looking at some ingredients. First thing is, why is this person saying it? Where is he or she coming from? What has made him or her come out with this? So, my first communication signal is to check, to validate what made that person say, because no customer, no subordinate, no child comes up with a problem till he or she can solve it himself. It is only when there is something which is beyond. So, first thing is why? Where is it coming from? What is the root cause of that problem? Second, why did that person tell you? And what does he or she expect from you? Okay, that means there is some solution that person is looking for. Are you able to first understand the problem? Because your solution can only be there if the problem has been comprehended well. So listen to understand. First listen to understand, and if need be, ask two more questions. Did I get you right? And sometimes I've been coached on this and I've tried it out and it works wonders, where you, while a person is telling and you say, but tell me more about it. So the person feels that yes, that means he's listening to me. Okay. And ask further questions to get deeper into why that problem exists. And never to give an impression that you are questioning that person or doubting, but to say, to give that impression that I am trying to get to the root of the problem and I'm here to find a solution and help you. So active listening is something very, very, very important. I'm going to be taking one more very, very critical part, because there are many, many ways of looking at communication. Firstly, I say that can we go beyond communication? When I am a good communicator, and I'll also in a while talk about who's a communicator. Okay. But before that, when I want to say something, am I clear about that message myself? Like what Famida said. And if I'm clear about my message, then did that message land on you the same way? That means, did you understand the same that I? So if I'm talking to the two of you and many other people, we got Shamvi, we got Vijay, we got Mohan, a couple of people whom I can see on the chat box. So they are there. Now there are many more who are listening to us and not commenting. So I don't know, like Famida said, I don't know who's my audience and where, which country, which region, are they children, are they adults, are they, I don't know that. When I am communicating, and let's say all of them got the same message that I said, not that different people understood me differently, I'm a good communicator because my message was clearly delivered. But what happens to that message? For example, I talk about my time investment strategies. And if I do something on that, I talk to you on that, and next day you start applying those time management principles, then I'm an influencer. That my communication inspired action. So today we are talking about how to communicate to influence, to become a person of influence. That means your communication can really go deep into making a person act the way you would like that person to act. A very small example that I normally give is that when a child is asking for a chocolate and the mother says, no, no, you can't have a chocolate. The child says, why? She says, if you have chocolates, your teeth will become bad. Says, Mom, when you were a child, did you ever have chocolates? She says, yeah, I did. But your teeth are quite okay, no? There's nothing gone wrong with them. If you had chocolates and your teeth are okay, what's the problem? She said, no, no, but if you eat too many of them. She said, but Mom, I haven't had a chocolate for the last 15 days. Now the child has been able to communicate so well that the mother is forced to allow the child to take a chocolate. So I also say that child is here a good salesperson, sold the idea. Okay. But if the mother was able to convince the child that the chocolate was not good, then it is the mother who's a good communicator. Okay. So we need to understand this. And just one last point before I hand over back to Rajvi was when I said, who's a communicator? So if I'm talking to you right now, Rajvi, who's the communicator? I'm talking to you. Who's communicator?
You are the communicator as you are
No,
sending your
I'm not.
message. Oh, am I the
No.
communicator because I'm
You are the
receiving your
communicator.
message?
Yes. If I was the communicator, I could be talking to a wall here.
Okay.
So till
This is
it
a
is
new
something like that.
perspective of communication.
Yeah. So Rajvi, you know, when you talk of an electric current, till there is an earthing, till the current reaches the other end, it doesn't solve any purpose. Communication is only communication when it is heard. Okay, and if it is not heard the same way, it is no communication. So the communicator, the communication cycle finishes at the person who's listening. That did he understand what you said? Okay, and let me tell you a very short and a very interesting story. When I left the army and came and started my own company, I was the CEO of the company. Famida, would you like to tell me what is CEO and the audience? What is the CEO?
Well, technically, they would call it the Chief Executive Officer.
But I was not that. They don't know. You all don't know what I was. I was the chief everything officer. So I just had one driver and I was there, and my other partners were in other cities. And I was quite alone handling the entire thing. So we did one training program, and the company was Tata Indicom, I still remember. And we had to send an invoice. So I went and typed the invoice, signed it, put a stamp there, put it in the envelope, went to the courier in my own car, gave it to the courier, and got the receipt. So all this process I've done myself, nobody else did for me. Now, after some time, when I wanted the money and I realized that I need to have some money, I remembered, oh, that invoice, that money hasn't come. So I picked up the phone and rang up this company and I said, listen, I am Brigadier Bhasin, and I want to know what happened to my invoice. Sorry, what happened to my payment? And this girl on the other end says, sir, but we haven't got your invoice. I said, what? I have said it myself. I put it myself. I did it. I went to the courier and I got the receipt and everything I said and I said. And I got exhausted with the, because what is happening in my mind is she hasn't got the invoice. Now she'll get the invoice. Then she'll process. That means another 1 month I'm not getting the money. When I finished, and there was a little silence. She said, sir, can I say something now? I said, yes, go ahead. She said, sir, I write the check when I get the invoice, not when you send it. Like it is important for the check for the invoice to reach her, same thing, the communication must reach you. And if it hasn't reached you properly, so when I communicate, I have to communicate to make sure that you get it. That, I call it landing. It is something like that message has to land and land well. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Rajvi. I think I took a little longer to explain this. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a very nice way to put it out. It has to receive and only then she can sign the check. That's a very nice way of how you've linked a daily life story to communication. Now, both of you are from are leaders in your own respective fields and have done a lot of public speaking, have done a lot of public talks. As someone who comes from the field of leadership and in the field of communication in specific, do you think that the communication has changed? We're talking about masks being removed and style being removed. We're all communicating on Zoom. Has it changed? Has the basic communication changed? If yes, how do you feel that's changed? Famida ma'am, let's start with you.
Forget about the masks, forget about the COVID. Communication on its original context has not changed, but transformed. Have you gone to a lecture nowadays? It's not a lecture, it's a conversation, it's a communication. Those days, when I used to take on training or I used to be a participant in a training, all what I have to do is this.
Yeah.
And the lecturer goes on and on and on and on, notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. Today, there's communication. Because communication, as Brigadier Basan says, as always, is the parent skill of any skill. For you to be able to connect, for you to be able to teach, for you to be able to inspire, influence, anything, any skills, you need to communicate. Wherever you go, it's about selling yourself in a professional manner. What I meant was, when you do that, you need to tell who you are. Enough of
Yeah.
talking, people say. I say now, enough of talking, because we have started to communicate. Our words matter. A communicator is a contributor, a positive contributor, a value added, significant contributor. What do you give to the world? When you talk to an audience, when you talk in a board meeting, when you talk to your child, when you talk to your family, what is that particular point that you said that nobody hasn't? The objective of your communication always lies in today.
Yeah.
Communication has developed because people have access to public domain information like any other time. Today, information is available out there. Look at the amount of webinars that happen. Look at the amount of videos that are there on leadership. Everything free of charge. People are ready to disseminate the information, the knowledge, because they have finally understood that nothing could be possessed, especially knowledge, especially words, especially wisdom. On these notes, Rajvi, it's not a change. It has transformed on a different realm. If you can't communicate, you don't fit into this world. From the dictator, now we have a leader who leads from the heart, a visionary leader. What happened to the dictator period? What happened to the boss who now has become the leader? What made that leader? What made him that leader? Communication styles, how he communicates to the people. A leader is a person who would want the receiver to want the same thing without telling him that this is what I want. Now, that is the power of communication. That is what I believe, Rajvi.
I think that's a real nice way of putting out the communication transformations that's changed. On a very lighter note, if you were given a choice, would you like the communication of the pre-COVID world or post-COVID world? On a very lighter note, we're not, going into the depths of both communication, but as an individual, did you like the pre-COVID conversation or communication on the post-COVID?
Well, pre-COVID kept me connected to people at coffee shops, malls, gave me a lot of exposure to the outer world. Now I think I'm connected to the globe and not just my city. Post-COVID communication has given me international exposure, and I would treasure it for the rest of my life.
Wow, I think we all if enjoyed and loved this post-COVID communication styles because at the comfort of our home, we are connecting to new people every day, meeting new people, having conversation, building relations and collaborations. So I guess yes, I think yeah, majority of people would like the post-COVID communication style. Basim, sir, over to you now. In what ways do you think that one has to communicate? Now, I'll move on to the influence part of our live topic today. In what ways does one have to communicate in order to influence or impact their audience?
So, the first thing I would say is to understand the learner or understand the receiver of your community, your audience. What Famida just said, and so beautifully she articulated, that the transformation of communication has happened primarily because the learner doesn't want to listen to your lectures anymore. If the learner wants bite-sized information, he doesn't want to come to your seminars. So I was attending a seminar way back in 2016 or 17, and I was told by the person, and he was a Canadian speaker of a very high repute, and he was talking about how the seminars that he has been taking have been reducing from 200 to 180 to now 150, and that day there were only 120 people there. And he said, why? Because people are they don't have the time to come and spend 6 hours, 8 hours in a full day seminar. Now they want things their way. They want it in smaller bites. They want it to be available to them when they want it. They want it when they are commuting. They want it when they are going, they like to have it at 11 o'clock at night. Okay. So now, because the learner's demands, the learning environment is changing, it's always like a customer. You have to focus on what does your customer want. And here your learner, your listener wanting differently. Your child. I have a grandson today who's 2.5. I mean, his requirement is different. I have to communicate to adhere to his requirement. So similarly, I have to be very, very concerned whether it is my verbal communication, my written communication. You know, when we started our program in COVID called TTOT, Train the Online Trainer, the first thing I said was webinars are not going to work. I said this in the month of March last year. I said, if you're going to deliver an offline program design in an online environment, it's not going to work. You have to now come on an online platform and understand what are the people expecting here. So we came to this program called Hive, which was high impact virtual engagement. Okay, I'm just writing it down for you here. High impact virtual engagement. That is what we did. Okay, which means we are talking about how can I virtually impact people. And my challenge was that when I used to do a lot of activities and keep people, get the vibration of the people that they never get bored because we make them play games and all. Can I do the same thing virtually? And how much closer can I get to the real life environment? And I can say very proudly that at least 70 to 80%, I'm as close to my virtual, to my in face or in person or face to face programs. So that can be done. So the first thing, of course, is be very, very learner centric, be aware of the learning environment, and that will be different. It will be different with different people. And every time, the person who's speaking, the person who's initiating the conversation has to be very clear about how you are being received. And the first time I actually realized this was when I went for a TEDx talk, that you're handling two audiences at the same time, simultaneously. You got 100 people sitting in the hall who are listening to you, and you keep them engaged. And you are engaging a global audience, so you don't know who they are, what age, what gender, nothing. And you don't know when they're going to listen to you, whether they're going to listen to you for more than 30 seconds or not. It'll depend on how much can you generate interest. So therefore, in post COVID, also, the hybrid model is going to be one of the greatest challenges for many of us, particularly who are either leaders in the corporate world or trainers, speakers, that you are going to be having a live class and many people are going to be also listening to you online. And how do you keep them engaged together at the same time? This is going to be one of the major challenges. Your other question, I think you also wanted, how is the, sorry, Rajvi, just repeat your question just for clarity.
I just wanted to know, how shall one communicate in order to give a big impact or influence his or her audience?
So the main answer there would be to understand what is their aspiration, what are they looking for, and how can you get to meet their aspirations and expectations as clearly as possible or as accurately, as closely as possible.
Famada ma'am, would you like to add more points for this one?
Well, I would completely say that in order to negate apathy, you need to have empathy. Walking in another person's shoes. Let it be a learner, let it be an avid listener, let it be a negotiator, a business associate. You need to resonate. When you resonate, you're able to understand what the other person wants. When you go into communication, as I previously stated, it is a two-way traffic. For you to be able to communicate and get the feedback that you need to give them what they need. Because you're talking to two different individuals who operate in their own model of the world. I would say when you walk in their shoes and understand what exactly it is what they need, then you're able to connect to them. Now, when you say, I mean, age gaps, or knowledge or curriculums or the certificates that you carry, not just, it's not the evidence of knowledge gaps. Everybody has knowledge gaps. The knowledge that I carry is different from what Brigadier carries. The knowledge that you carry, Rajvi, is not the knowledge I carry, which does not make anybody inferior or superior. When we understand that two different individuals in two different capacities are communicating with each other, and the objective of the conversation has to be the highest priority, not the two individuals. There are messengers who are placed in front of each other to communicate, to convey, to connect, and then to conquer the ultimate objective of the intended message. This is applicable to any audience that you're talking to. Once again, family, business, corporates, entrepreneurs, friends, family. You need to be able to build that agreement framework. When agreement is established, then you become comfortable. When comfort is established, then you're able to connect. I always emphasize you need to connect. Without connectivity, you can never see through each other.
I think that's a very strong point that's come out. You just connect. When you connect right from the heart, it is there and it reaches the right place. As leaders and speakers, in today's world, when you are communicating with someone, when you are having a conversation with someone, what do you expect its outcome to be? Because each one of us does every task, uh, keeping an outcome, keeping a at the end goal in our minds. So while communicating, what is your goal? We'll start with Famida ma'am.
Just before that, Rajvi, I just want to say I quite like the way Praveen has said that these are, very old uh, principles of communication, the three C's he's talking about: be clear, crisp, and concise. That will never change. The fundamentals never change. Only the packaging needs to be changed. The context is changing, the content is not changing. So, we certainly need to focus on that. And thank you, Praveen, for sharing that wonderful point. Now, I also wanted to say when Famida was just talking about, or when Rajvi said, what is your end goal? So when you communicate, see, there's a lot of noise around here. There's a noise inside me that my message is not clear. A lot of things inside me, I am thinking about, should I say this? Should I not say this? Will this be good? Will that be good? First is, can I get internal clarity by eliminating the fog in my mind? There's dust there. Like I always say this, that when my son told me to buy this camera, and I bought this because of its this phone because of the good camera. And one day I told him, I said, you take pictures, they are so good, and my pictures are not so good from the same camera. And he says, Dad, when did you last clean the lens? And then I understood that this lens, the dust on the lens is actually creating the ambiguity, the blurriness. So if I want a clear picture, I have to first remove the ambiguities, remove the unwanted, eliminate that to get my clearer idea. And once I have that clear idea, then that clear idea becomes like a pointed arrow and it will pierce through the noise in the market where a lot of people are saying the same thing. How am I saying that for impact? So communicate for impact. And you need to understand, number one, what is my listener wanting? And secondly, what can I say? And then this very beautiful word Famida said is connect. Can I connect to what he wants? What he's wanting and what I got a message. Can I first synchronize these two and then deliver it in a way that it has impact? And when it has impact, it will obviously influence the person.
Famida ma'am, what are your
I
views on
completely
this?
agree with you, sir. I completely agree with you. Self conviction is the best form of marketing. When you understand and when you have come into an agreement with yourself that this is what needs to be done, then the objectives are very clear. For example, let's take this very platform and this very event that we have connected. What is the objective? We need to tell our audience of how well communication has transformed and whether we need to be in power with that. If we are not, how could we transform ourselves to be in power with the ongoing changes? So these are our objectives. I need to connect with you, Rajvi, for you to connect with me. I need to be able to learn while I communicate. I need to be able to understand what you're saying. Language is just the deciphering bit in which we both communicate. There is more to it. There is more to the personality. We need to be open. Respecting each other's presence in this platform is one important thing. I need to respect you, that you're the anchor, and be able to answer your questions in a constructive manner, respecting the time that the audience have invested in this. And then you build your personality accordingly. Always remember your words, your personality is the inner reflection of yourself. In order to change, you should be open to change. The fears, the doubts all go back. The language that which you communicate is the heart-to-heart communication. You would look at me. You would see my hands shake, my eyes, whether I am enthusiastic in what I'm saying. And then you would be convinced. Oh yeah, she is saying something that is valid for me. The significant contributor, the positive and effective communicator. It is important for the objectives to stay intact. When the objectives stay intact, when two listeners, two or more communicators understand the objectives and prioritize the objectives, the outcomes, this is what we need to achieve. So let's achieve this together because we have come, met, and we're communicating for this purpose. And when the why is understood, the what's and the hows are how we talk to each other. Whether you don't like my voice and whether I don't like your voice is immaterial. How we come together and collaborate and understand the outcomes is what's important. Those are my views, Raja.
I think very nicely, summed up and said by both of you. Just moving down to a little, from the social media perspective and the technology perspective of communication, we have seen that, I don't remember pre-COVID, sorry, anyone making videos, or even if they made, they were pretty long videos, 30 minutes, 40 minutes video, and they used to float that on YouTube thinking, I'm communicating by messages. Now it's changed. We have reels that have come up from 15 seconds to 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Your IGTVs have come up 5 minutes, and people are making that. So again, there's a communication shift that's happened from long videos and longer conversations to short. How do you think this shift has impacted the generation of today? And also in the longer run, if we look at these changes that have happened, do you think that for the betterment? What are some things to keep in mind while having this shift that has come in place, with the social media specifically? Basinsa, would you like to go first?
Okay. So, Rajvi, first thing is, of course, it's decided by the listener. The listener has got his, today everything is being decided by the attention span. And because the attention spans are shrinking so much, so therefore, your communication is received well if it is short and clear. Okay. Now, because of that, the short videos and all have come up. Then people also realize that what do you like? So if you like Bollywood and you want to convert your lessons into a Bollywood, like for example, now even on time management, I've come across with linking some of my lessons to Bollywood songs like Waqt Ne Kiya Kya Sitam. So, to talk about that, how is time related to the lyrics of the song? See how you connect with them. So connection is with the audience. If the audience likes to be kinesthetic, you have to respond accordingly. If they are the ones who like videos, respond accordingly. So The medium of your message, the clarity of your message, the timing of your message needs to coincide with the demand of the listener or the audience. So that makes the most important difference. And because of that, and then there's something called trend. You see, now just because somebody started doing those 15-second videos and they were found to be successful, and today you have data and you have data analytics. So the moment you say, okay, you try an experiment and say, "Arey, this is working very well," you get more likes, you get more views, and then that becomes a trend. So that is another thing which goes on to that. Things on YouTube have been changing. On every platform, new platforms are coming. So people realize, and I remember there's a guy called, uh, oh, I just slipped up his name, Australian fellow who came to India. He was in Bombay in 2015, and he gave us a talk on social future of social media. And in 2015, he said that we didn't know much about podcasting that time, but he said podcasting is the future of communication. And that time he said, and it's difficult for many of us to imagine that he had that vision. He said, you will not be able to watch videos while driving a car, while being in the gym, while cooking, while eating, but you will be able to listen to podcasts. He said sometime, he said something like there will be in the future something called audio books. And I'm telling you, it looked like a fairy tale. And today you see all that is coming through. How did a platform like Clubhouse emerge and become so popular? When I find that a video is certainly more impactful, that the voice is in any case there. But when Clubhouse became so popular, people said, I don't have to care about the lighting, about my dress, about how I'm looking. I could be in my pajamas, I could be lying in my bed and talking. So people found that comfort. And that was where Clubhouse took over. So there are some trends, some experiments people keep doing. And I think as a communicator, we have to continue experimenting and meeting the requirements of the then generation, the then audience, and it'll keep varying. So if I'm going to be speaking to an audience in Africa, I will certainly have to first find out what do people like there and what type of communication goes well with them. Because if I just start saying something and they like something else, it can be total break of communication. And I was liking with the way Famida was saying, and I've been saying for the last 1 year. I said now COVID has opened up the floodgates. I can talk to any country. Earlier, you had to go to another country. Like I've been wanting to go to Sri Lanka. I've got a friend there. Uh, Jagat is his name. So he came to do a course with us and then became a very good friend, runs a training company. Last 4 years, we've been trying to do some programs in Sri Lanka, but he couldn't organize one, and I still haven't traveled there. But come COVID, I've spoken to 5 audiences in Sri Lanka already. So I've spoken, I think more than 20 countries I've spoken in the COVID because there was no passport, no visa, no air flight, no hotel. And you can now, all the boundaries are clear. So the globe has become a digital world by itself. It doesn't matter where you are. So I have a student who's from Solon, for example. She could never imagine that she can get into a network sitting in Solon, a small place. You have a small crowd to meet. You're talking about coffee shops and all. There's no coffee shop there, so maybe you meet only in small dhabas or whatever. And today you can be anywhere. So that makes a lot of difference.
Yes, I think how social media and how this COVID world has just broken all national, international boundaries for each one of us, and we're connecting with just a click of a button, as Ma'am said earlier. This is about social media and the technology world. How has the phone conversations changed? Have you felt your phone conversations changing from pre-COVID and post-COVID? Famida, ma'am?
I think phone conversations always remain phone conversations where the luxury of seeing each other's faces while talking Now I say the congruency is established. What you're saying, is it actually sincere? With your body language, with your facial expressions are more visible right now. And I would say, let we keep talking about COVID because we're so excited, Rajvi, with the exposure, with as Brigadier said, opening the floodgates and breaking and crashing down global borders. But this is just the beginning, Rajvi. We can be excited about what's happening today, but this is just a knock to our reality to take us out of the trance that we were always in. The man built ecosystem was broken by nature, and nature built an ecosystem to bring man together. And communication is what helped. Today we say communication. In 10 years, wonder what it would be. Communication would have transformed to be something much, much more better. Do you understand how children speak? I have never spoken a word as such when I was 6, 7 years. The the amount of knowledge they carry, the amount of wisdom they are able to put into a conversation from zero value-added conversations. Now it's like you could actually draw true inspirations by talking to children. Now it's also, as Brigadier said, experimental and experiential learning. 19 to 20 years back, when we had our employers, we were supposed to be like puppets, do as you are told. Now, we might have not liked it because there was a generation difference. We were in our late 20s or early 20s and we had 50s, 60s. Now, after 10 years, when we climb the ladder, we take this experience with us. Did we like this style of learning? Should we be the leader who we wanted? Treat people the way you would like to be treated. Now, that is where lead from within, lead from your heart, lead with love. These concepts came in because people who experienced the dictatorship working under bosses came into play and they changed the context, not the content. They became more compassionate in delivering a message. They wanted to give true words of wisdom out there so that people start spreading it out. But once again, this is just the beginning. There is much more to come. And when you learn to connect, that is all. You could fit into any change that is being thrown at you because life is filled with uncertainty. You may never know what this COVID might end up to be, what COVID would become. And COVID would be history in another 2 years, and we do not know the changes. Zoom would be a obsolete platform. Who knows? We may be able to actually have 3D images of each other connecting through a computer. A computer may become the size of a nail. And all of that is immaterial when two people can connect. When you're able to talk heart to heart, keeping priority on the objectives and the outcome of the message, then everything is well. Nothing to worry. You're in power with the changes ongoing and to come.
I think that's a very nice way of putting it out, and you're just finding the positives in the whole negative world of COVID-19. I think we took COVID-19 as that's a very negative phase of life, and we've all lost our jobs, lost money, and all. But this, when I look at this conversation and hear this conversation, I think it's just finding the positive light in everything that comes to you, and I think that is what we all have to do. So thank you for that element. I think it's a very straightforward and very well to put out a message for all our listeners and our viewers. Brigadier sir, what are your views on this? Have your phone conversations changed, or do you think they're the same, or have they become much
I
more
don't
fun
think
and you know?
I think phone conversations didn't change much. They probably are almost the same. The only thing is that we started getting used to am I audible and all things like that a little more. Okay. Or connectivity issue, which we used to never talk of earlier on phone call. We never talked of connectivity issue. So certain thing like that, but otherwise generally the main ingredient of a phone call has remained the same. I have just noticed one thing while we were going through this communication thing. This word communication starts with C, and all the important things around it also start with C. Okay, so whether we talk about clear, concise, crisp, congruent, connection, conviction, uh, all these important things around communication are all starting with C. That seems to be quite a coincidence. But the most important thing we have been talking about, and if you really sum it up, and it is about connection. It is about connection. It is about matching up. It's something like those two gears where the teeth mesh with each other. That is a connection. The wheels move only when the teeth go into each other. Do we in communication also, my message and my listeners' requirements, do they mesh with each other? And I wish the word mesh was sesh so that we could also have another C word coming in. So integration and connection, I think, sums up the entire thing. Whether it's post-COVID, whether it's any type of environment, this part will never change. How we connect, how we integrate, how we come together, the how will change, but the requirement of connection will never change. Because that is a fundamental requirement of communication.
I think that's really well said. And yeah, I think connection problem and all. We've actually said this a lot of times, especially in COVID, that I'm facing a connection problem. Never heard before, but yes, now. Before we wind up our this session, what is the one thing that you would like to say, each one of you? What was the one thing that you would like to say to all our listeners, to our viewers, in respect to communication and influence, which they can take home with them? So we'll start with Pamada ma'am.
I think I would have to steal the information that Brigadier just summed up. The power of C: communicate to connect, to collaborate, make it crisp, clear. There again, I think it was Praveen ji who actually contributed with those two words of wisdom. The power of C. Remember it. It's a simple logic, a statement. Power of C. What do I do? I collaborate, I conquer, I connect through communication. Simple. Remember the power of C, and there you go. It's the power of you elevates to another state.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, ma'am. Hussein sir, what about you?
So I would say the very, very essential thing in communication for anyone who's sending out a message is to understand the audience and keep getting regular feedback. I call it feed forward because that's what Marshall Goldsmith taught us. That you get insights from your listener and find out whether the communication landed or not. That is something which I would say is very, very important. So understanding the audience, getting the feedback, and then revising it to make it clearer the next time is something that would keep the communication always alive. So that's what I would end up with.
That's amazing. Once again, I would like to thank all our viewers, all our listeners for being here with us and for sticking around to listen to at such an important topic. Thank you so much, Famida ma'am, for joining us for this live session. Thank you so much, Brigadier Sushil Bhasin sir, for sharing your amazing insights on communication to communicate to influence post-COVID. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
everyone.
much. Thank you, Rajvi, for conducting it so beautifully. I must compliment you for the wonderful way you have done that. And Famida, I must also congratulate you. Thank you. You did so well, and I'm getting more and more connected with you because I think we talk a lot on the same page, and there is certainly a lot of collaboration possible. So we are communicating on all the C's right now. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and for you having accepted to invest your 60 minutes with not even batting an eyelid. So thank you very much for doing that. And of course, I must thank all our audience who are here. and who have spent or invested their time very profitably. I hope you got your lessons, and I'll be very, very happy if all of you can comment on what are your takeaways, what did you learn, or what can you share so that it becomes a collective learning. So another C has come up, collective learning. Okay.
Yes.
Become conscious. So another C. We become conscious of the C's today.
I think we are going to make a Mentimeter slide of all the C's related to communication. This is a new, to-do point for us. But thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you in the next live.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was next live. I heard next life. I said, what happened?
No, next live.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the viewers, spectators. And I would like to just take a second and really uh, thank each one of you. Thank you, Shambhavi. Thank you, Commander Vijay. Thank you, Mohan and Dr. Rati. Thank you, Kishan Tiwari. I'm so sorry I could not understand a word of that Hindi. Not that I don't understand Hindi, but the way it is typed, मेरे से पढ़ा नहीं गया. But anyway, I thank you for your point. Thank you, Bobby, Praveen, Jones, and Lena. Thank you, Lena. It's nice to see you coming back. Uh, Iqbal Rana, Anju, Shweta. Each one of you, thank you so much. Of course, Ruth and Bindu. Thank you for all your time and your. So when I see a remark from Commander Vijay, it just shows me that he was the first one to enter and he's still there. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much uh, for your investment of your time, for your patience, for your adding value. Thank you so much. So here we take leave and look forward to seeing you in the next live session. Thank you.